obviously home ownership is important to a lot of people. Can you just kind of touch upon property taxes? That's a big deal here in California and a big expense for many of us. Can you tell us about the property taxes, what they're based on in Idaho?
So the cool thing about Idaho is we are not a home rule state. And that's kind of a government term, but in Idaho, local municipalities don't have the power to increase their local taxes.
Wow.
So that's why the sales tax that I mentioned at 6%, that's a statewide sales tax. Local governments, including Boise, don't have the power to add on top of that. And I know that's pretty rare in this country because most places, right, the local government just keeps tacking things on. And I'm not going to lie to you, the local governments don't like that, but that's just the way it is. So the legislature has to give permission for that. So property taxes are kind of in the same boat. We have two property taxes. We have one for residential real estate and one for investment real estate. So if you live in the home, they have what's called a homeowner's tax exemption. And that gives you $100,000 cut off the top of your value.
Wow.
And then you're taxed on the rest. If you're an investor, you don't get that $100,000 haircut. Mm-hmm. But on average, here in Ada County, where we're talking mostly in the Treasure Valley, your property taxes are generally just about 1% of the home value. So if you're buying a $350,000 house, then your property taxes are probably going to be about $3,000 to $3,500, give or take. The good news about our taxes, though, is that we are one of only 8 non-disclosure states. And what that means is that the sales price of your property is not shared with the government. So or the public. It's non-disclosed. So what that means is there's no transfer taxes. That also means that there's no lightning assessments or lightning appraisals. So the government in Idaho only allows property taxes to be raised a maximum of 3% a year. Doesn't mean they have to be raised that much, but that's it. So we've had some massive appreciation over the last decade here, but the property taxes have not gone up accordingly because they're not allowed to. So that's one of the benefits of buying property in Idaho, is that the taxes are relatively low. There are no hidden fees. There's no inclusionary zoning. There's no transfer taxes. Impact fees are very minimal, and they're built in, and they're generally for fire safety. You don't have a lot of elaborate impact fees like you do in California.
That's great. Thank you for that. Now, you've touched upon it already, but I just want to kind of hit on this again. You know, a lot of us here in California, when we commute to our jobs, for example, I commuted 25 miles for years, and it would take me an hour to an hour and a half to get there on both ways. And one of the challenges that people in California have is that they have a hard time believing if you're living in a major metro area that you're not going to have a significant commute associated with that. So can you just kind of touch upon it again? I mean, yeah, it's great. It's a 30 to 45 minute commute today, but like 2 years from now, is it going to be an hour, hour and a half type commute, or can you just kind of touch upon that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So the way it works is the interstate starts literally in downtown Boise. They built a connector a couple of decades ago. So you can literally be in downtown at all the stuff. You jump on the connector and you're on the highway system. So the highway will take you straight to Meridian. It'll take you straight to Nampa and Caldwell. So very quick commutes. It'll also take you the other way if you want to start going to Eastern Idaho. It does not go to Eagle or Cuna. So if you live in Eagle, you can't take the highway. So a commute from Eagle to downtown Boise on a good day would take about 20 minutes, and on a bad day, about 30. But to go from Boise to Meridian, it's just a quick 10, 15-minute commute. To Nampa, 25 minutes. And to the airport, once again, 10, 15 minutes from anywhere. The airport is that centrally located. The coolest thing, though, is when people come to visit, they can't believe it. If they're flying in for the first time and they land at this airport, and then they're expecting to be, 30, 40, an hour and a half to get to their hotel or wherever. It's not, it's 15 minutes, and people can't believe it. We have a very active rideshare system here. So really easy. Once again, low regulation, so they can actually be at the airport and pick you up, and there's just not a lot of red tape. So really, the commute is minimal, and it's one of those things that once you actually experience it, you just can't believe it. You're not having to leave to work, at 6 a.m. when your job starts at 8. You leave at 7:30, and you're there at 8 o'clock. And that's only during rush hour, Terry. I mean, the rest of the day, it's pretty minimal. I will say this is this is not the most walkable friendly place other than the downtown area. This is not the kind of place that you're going to be riding your bike or walking to ghost places. We're definitely car centric here. We don't have, like I said, we have a minimal bus system, but it's not anywhere nearly evolved as the bus systems in California. So, you are going to have a vehicle here. We do have electrical charging stations as well. Not everywhere, but there's enough of them that if you have an electric vehicle, you can still get by here. But for the most part, people have their trucks, people have their SUVs, same. And the speed limit here on the highway is 85 miles an hour on our interstate. So.
Wow. And I assume your gas is quite a bit cheaper than California. I mean, I think the cheapest I can find around here is just under $3 a gallon right now.
Right now, it's literally about $1.80.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot cheaper. Yeah, that's great. Hey, while I'm thinking of it, can you just kind of talk, you spoke about the after primary school education, the colleges and things like that. Can you just talk about the quality of schools for primary education, elementary, middle school, and high school?
Yeah, and I can attest to that. I have 3 children, as you probably know, Terry. I have a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and an 8-year-old. So we're definitely involved in the younger school system. Idaho and the Treasure Valley in particular is all about school choice and school availability. There are a plethora of private schools, parochial schools, Catholic schools, Christian schools, public schools, art schools, STEM schools. There is a huge acceptance of homeschooling in Idaho in general, but especially here. So everything is there. So no matter what your grasp is, it's here. We have great public schools, and the public schools are usually well built and have all the amenities that you come to expect. And because we're not landlocked, most of our public schools have huge, playgrounds and basketball courts and all the things you would expect with land. And all of our playgrounds and parks are fully green year round here. Water is very plentiful in Idaho. There are no droughts. And water is very cheap here. So you can irrigate your lawns of the schools and your homes for almost nothing, just a couple $100 a year. So the school system is great. We actually have our kids. One of them goes to a full-time private classical Christian school. And my other 2 go to a hybrid homeschool, and they go to school. So 3 days a week they're at home, 2 days they're at school, but the teachers manage all the curriculum, so it's not like full homeschooling. Mm-hmm. But there's a ton of support groups for full-time homeschoolers, a ton of activities. Believe it or not, there's even a government program that will provide a subsidy for books and things if you are a full-time homeschooler. It's up to, I think it's $750 per kid per semester. You can get reimbursed for buying, the textbooks and all the computers and things that you need to homeschool. So it's very different from most parts of the country, very widely accepted, and everybody gets along. It's a very, very congenial system. You don't have a lot of conflict between those that go to public schools and that don't. It's not like that at all.
Thank you for that. Hey, you touched upon it briefly there. Can you talk us, one of the greatest things about California, if not the greatest thing, is the weather. I grew up in Florida. I grew up sweating and in my elementary school, which didn't have air conditioning. And then I'd never known there was a place like California where most summer days it's in the 80s and there's no humidity. Obviously, that's something that people are going to have to give up when they leave California. But can you talk a little bit about the weather in Boise and the banana belt? You taught me about the banana belt too, and what that means to the weather in your area.
Yeah, you're definitely going to have to, if you live by the ocean in California, You know, there is no oceanfront property. The closest is this pond. But I will say, you asked me earlier what attracted us to Boise is, once again, the seasons. So Boise is very different from the rest of Idaho. I know a lot of people, when they think of Idaho, they think of snow. You know, they think of Montana and Michigan and Minnesota. They put us all together. Well, that is true everywhere else in Idaho except for the Treasure Valley. We call this the banana belt. Boise itself, if you look at a map, you know, we're at obviously the southwest corner of the state, closer to Utah and Nevada. So we are an arid desert climate, believe it or not. Even though we're green, it's definitely an arid, dry climate. Humidity is relatively zero here. So, you know, there's almost no humidity. So you're definitely going to need lotion and body cream to keep yourself, you know, moisturized. But because of that, you're not sweating. You go out for a jog or for a walk, or you go to your car to go to work, you're not drenched in sweat. We were really happy for that. One of the reasons we moved here is we wanted that dry climate. So we have about 230 days a year, according to the internet, of sunshine. It feels that way. And right now it's about 73 degrees, totally sunny, not a lot of cloud cover. We don't have pollution here. There's no smog. There's nothing in our air, so the sky is always clear and clean. You can breathe the air. We have about 80 days of precipitation, but our precipitation is very minimal. Once again, we're not in the rest of Idaho, so it doesn't snow much in Boise proper. Believe it or not, we might get a dusting once or twice every winter, maybe a couple of inches, but it's all gone within a couple of days. Now you drive 45 minutes away, and you can be in a ski resort where there's a ton of snow, but not here in Boise. So you don't have to worry about snow tires and chains. About once a decade, it snows dramatically. And it happened about 4 years ago. It snowed a lot. But that's about it. Since then, it's just been minimal. Same with rain. It never really thunderstorms. We don't have natural disasters in this area. You know, we don't have typhoons and tornadoes or, you know, things like that. It's a pretty easy place to kind of plan your schedule. You kind of know that you're going to be able to you're going to be able to have your barbecue in the month of October, or you're going to be able to do whatever you think you can do. The weather does not surprise you here. It's pretty stable.
That's great. And then since you don't get, since you have so many days of sunshine, it doesn't create any kind of fire hazard or anything. You don't have wildfires, do you?
Not here. Nope, not in the Boise area. Once again, it's very wet here. We have this pond that I just told you about, but if you get up to Nampa, which is about 30 minutes away, we have one of the largest lakes in the whole state called Lake Lowell, Lowell. It's massive. And we have, you know, all kinds of rivers here, right? We have the Boise River, we have the Snake River. So we have so many outlets of water, and it's I've never heard of any type of forest fires in this part of the state. We do get, though, full transparency. Whenever they have the huge fires in California, it does sometimes reach us here as far as the inversion in the air. And so, you know, it is common to have several days whenever the fires are really big in Northern California, for our air quality to go down pretty low. But it's never more than a couple of days. And so that's one of the byproducts of being close to California with all the forest fires there.
Yeah, that's too bad.